Yeast is a live microorganism which plays a very important role in bread baking. Yeast is also the reason for all those air pockets which make the dough rise and result in spongy breads or yeast cakes. There are a couple of types of yeast available. One is used in brewing beer and the other one is called baker's yeast, which is also available in two forms: fresh yeast and active dry instant yeast. Fresh yeast needs to be worked in phases and requires the dough to be proven twice to let it rise well, and also this takes a good amount of time. So the quick and easy way is to use active dry instant yeast. This is the most commonly used yeast in home baking, and as the name says, it is instant and speeds up the bread baking process, and no need to prove the dough twice to let it rise. So before starting to bake any type of bread, it is very important to know if the yeast is active or not, and it can be tested in a very simple way. And to do that, we will need some active dry instant yeast, some sugar, and some water. The water temperature plays an important role in activating the yeast, so it is very crucial to keep the temperature at lukewarm, or if you are the kind of a person who likes to measure everything, the water temperature can be anywhere between 120 degrees Fahrenheit to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. In other words, not too hot, not too cold. If water is cold or even room temperature, it will not activate the yeast, and if it's too hot to touch, then it will kill it. I'm taking about 1 tablespoon of yeast and add it to the cup. I'll add a little bit of sugar. And let me close the lid on the yeast so moisture doesn't get in there. Let's add some warm water to this. Maybe about 2 tablespoons or more, depending on how this looks when it's mixed. I'm testing this with a tablespoon quantity of yeast to make the results clearly visible in the video. But if you would like to test it at home, take just about a teaspoon or so, and that should do. This needs a little bit more water. Just stir until everything is combined. No need to overmix this. That looks good, and in just a few seconds this will start to show bubbles or look foamy on the surface, and in about 5 minutes the fermentation would be clearly visible and it will start to rise and smell like bread. Since we have taken a lot of yeast in a small cup, it will rise all the way up. If you are testing with a small amount, it may not look like this, but if the yeast is active and water temperature is right, you should start to see bubbles. After 5 minutes, if you're still not seeing bubbles and the mixture is still flat and looking like the consistency of milk, the yeast may not be active anymore and you may want to buy another batch for your baking. See all those beautiful bubbles? The yeast is clearly active and great for baking. Just for fun, I want to disturb this formation and show you how it looks underneath. Depending on the water to yeast ratio, it may be bubbly or creamy. Now that we've seen how to test it, let's see how to store it and prolong the shelf life. If you're buying the small packets which are available in all grocery stores, no need to transfer them into another container. But if you're buying in bulk, transfer it to a clean dry jar with an airtight lid and store in the freezer. It is best to store the individual packets in the freezer as well. This will keep the yeast active for a long time. Dry yeast is like tiny foam pebbles, and any moisture inside the container would mess with it. So always remember to wipe your hands and spoons while scooping some out. Hope this video was helpful and that you get to enjoy bread baking as much as I do, and fill your home with delicious aromas. Happy baking, and thank you so much for watching.